Oh boy, did Ubisoft really piss off the folks in Japan recently, though I'm not entirely sure how any of it should come as a surprise. I mean, heck, the Assassin's Creed series in general have always had what I call a long-distance relationship with historical accuracy, so one has to wonder how anyone in Japan is even remotely shocked that AC Shadows is treading over the exact same break for the bazillion time. But putting internet drama aside, this whole debacle has gotten me thinking, what the bloody hell is Japanese culture these days? I mean, just from asking around, I get answers ranging from anything between weirdos in robes hitting each other with fancy swords, to city-flooding murder machines irresponsibly left in the hands of angsty teenagers. And while sure, Japan is certainly no stranger to these genres, but it's hard to argue that these ideas are exclusively found in the land of anime and crazy game shows. That being said, do you know what genre is truly handcuffed to Japanese culture? Magic schoolgirls getting fucked by weird-ass tentacle monsters, that's what. I mean, that's the kind of messed up shit even H.P. Lovecraft wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Yet, despite having to constantly relocate to avoid being on the FBI degenerate list, I will shamefully admit that I rather enjoy the genre. Not entirely sure why my primitive brain instantly drives me to start caveman humping the living room sofa at the very mention of such a bizarre concept. Like, I get that Sailor Moon was on TV back around the time I was figuring out what boobies are, but surely there's gotta be a better explanation. Well, seeing how I turned 30 this year, I think it's about time I get my shit together and figure out the source of this strange affliction by playing Blazing Angel Mistletoe, a game in which a magic schoolgirl gets molested by a parade of evildoers, cause let's face it, who the fuck has time for therapy these days? The story starts off rock hard solid and appears to be shooting in the right direction. Psychotic megalomaniac, completely immune from the law, kidnaps innocent schoolgirl, older sister gains fancy magic powers, go rescue sibling before pervy bad guy takes over the world and plays your sister's ass like a bongo drum. It keeps being Saturday morning cartoon style, which is probably the best way to handle a plot so detached from Earth that you could use it to bounce GPS signals into outer space. Part-time heroine jobber and walking masturbation material Akira Amanagi is forced to abandon her jolly school life in order to take on the role of a new persona, Blazing Angel Mistletoe. God, that name sucks. Thus giving her the powers to save the day, but perhaps even more importantly, the necessary legal deniability to vaguely comply with federal underage pornography laws. And so begins an epic adventure of courage and self-discovery that will take us from the familiar grounds of the school hallways into the vast depths of an underground genetics lab. Apparently genetic engineering is just something all insane megalomaniacs turn to when they run out of crazy things to do. Not sure why this jackass didn't just open a dinosaur theme park like every other rich asshole on the planet with too much free time on their hands, but to each his own I guess. The gameplay is best summarized as a blind date between a sweaty side-scrolling MMA fighter and a classically read visual novel nerd, which on paper sounds as bad of an idea as forcing Oprah Winfrey to read an erotic novel to an angry grizzly bear. Yet the game somehow managed to pull it off rather seamlessly, combining an elaborate combat system with a collection of extremely hot naughty scenes. The fighting mechanics in particular felt extremely well rounded and stacked with intricate combos. You can grab an enemy and repeatedly knee them in the balls assuming you're the type of person who enjoys bread sandwiches. You can roundhouse kick a group of foes into the handicap community for looking at you funny, or you can grab a bloke, knee them in the balls, roundhouse kick their spine into spaghetti, and suplex whatever mess is left of them onto their nearby horrified mates. Though to be honest, if you're anything like me, that is not a complete psychopath, and are just in it for the pootie tang, then you probably wouldn't be wasting your time with any of what I just described, because the ridiculously overpowered uppercut spectacular hits every enemy around you, makes you completely invulnerable to damage, and has the ability to render even the most harmful enemies into knockoff brand pasta sauce. Granted, it does cost a bit of mana, meaning that you can't spam it endlessly, but then you just leg it out of the room like a man trying to avoid paying the restaurant bill and watch as all your enemies neatly bunch up together trying to catch up before turning around for some good old haymakers. Perhaps I'm being a little too harsh on the difficulty, as games like this are meant to be played with one hand under your trousers. Hang on, let me try that real quick, see if it makes a difference.
Let's all go to the lobby, let's all go to the lobby, let's all go to the lobby, get ourselves some snacks.
Nope, still the same. I would however concede that although the combat never truly offered much of a challenge, I did get somewhat stuck trying to navigate through the labyrinth that is the final level, which just goes to prove that the best way to thwart any intruding superheroes from vandalizing your property is just to toss out all the building signs. As mentioned before, the naughty content in this game tickled me knickers in all the right ways, as the developers clearly made an effort into putting a lot of detail into the writing and voice acting. However, despite my praise, I can't help but admit that the hanky-panky did in a way overstay its welcome. This is principally because each scene just dragged on for way too long, meaning that the relatively few CG variations quickly felt static and unengaging. Out of morbid curiosity, I decided to take a stopwatch to one of the scenes. Now go ahead my dear viewers and take an educated guess at how long you think it went. Don't worry, I'll give you a moment. Nope, 31 minutes and 8 seconds. So yeah, it's not entirely clear to me if the developers had intended for me to rub one out during all that time or possibly start a small house fire, but all things considered, I still rather like this game. It's far too common these days for naughty scriptwriters to have their unsullied virtuous heroines throw out their tits at the first sign of trouble, without ever making the effort to show the corruption process, and games like Blazing Angel Mistletoe certainly understands the importance of slow rolling the depravity, albeit a little too excessively. I should point out that for whatever idiotic reason, the Steam version is heavily censored and fuss should be avoided like a rabid Karen carrying syphilis. Not entirely sure what kind of a twisted son of a bitch would go out of their way to censor porn. I mean, what is even the goal here? What, are you trying to make it family friendly or some shit?
You're free! Free to live your life as nature intended!
Not my baby!
How was I supposed to know there was a children's hospital around the corner?